Opening montage. The weight of silence. In modern-day Mexico City, we see fragments of chaos. A man running through traffic, a child crying in a flooded street, a drone soaring over desolate rooftops. The protagonist, Luciano Morales, a once-acclaimed war photographer, narrates about images that never die. He has returned home after years abroad, carrying guilt and trauma from a conflict he documented. His face, tired and hollow, mirrors the ghosts he once photographed. We sense he's haunted by something. Not just memories, but by the image of a young boy's death he once captured. The exhibition Luciano's photographs are being showcased in a prestigious art gallery. Images of human suffering in war zones. He stands among the crowd, distant, disoriented, barely hearing the praise. A mysterious woman, Isabella, confronts him and whispers, "You took a picture of my son." The room spins as Luciano's reality fractures, flashing back to the moment of the photo. A boy dying in rubble, looking straight at him, fractured time. Luciano begins to experience temporal dislocations, moments of the past bleeding into the present. He walks the streets of Mexico City, but suddenly finds himself back in Aleppo, camera in hand amid explosions. The boundary between his trauma and his current life dissolves. Iñárritu's visual language turns the city into a living, breathing organism of pain and memory. Every face he sees seems to be that of the boy. The return to family, Luciano visits his estranged wife, Elena, and their teenage daughter, Camila, who barely recognizes him. Elena accuses him of choosing war over family, of documenting suffering instead of healing it. He tries to reconnect, but Camila resents him, calling his work art made of corpses. Luciano begins to wonder if redemption is even possible. He sleeps in his car outside their home, watching life move on without him. The mirror room. In a dream sequence, Luciano walks into a dark museum filled with mirrors reflecting his photographs. Each mirror distorts the images. The victims' faces become his own. He smashes the glass, and the fragments reveal flashes of the boy again, reaching for him, asking, "Why didn't you help me?" He wakes up screaming, drenched in sweat, the sound of camera shutters echoing in his ears. Isabella visits Luciano at his apartment. She reveals she's not seeking revenge but truth. Her son's image became a symbol of war. But she never gave consent. She wants to know what happened before and after that photo, the story behind the image the world saw. Luciano agrees to help her find closure, but the journey will force him to reopen old wounds. They set out together to retrace his past. Journey through memory. Their journey takes them to the border regions where refugees still gather. Iñárritu uses long, uninterrupted takes, merging documentary realism with surreal transitions between countries and years. Luciano begins hearing voices from his photographs, each pleading to be remembered. Isabella films their journey, reversing the camera's gaze. Luciano, once the observer, becomes the observed. The desert of echoes. In a vast desert, they meet a blind ex-soldier who remembers Luciano's camera. He says, "You stole our souls to show the world its own indifference." The desert begins to shift, sand swirling into shapes of faces, whispers of the dead echoing in the wind. Luciano falls to his knees, overwhelmed by guilt and hallucination. He faints, the camera lens buried beside him in the sand. The flashback, the moment of the boy. The truth emerges in fragmented flashbacks. Luciano recalls being near the bombing that killed the boy. He had the chance to help, but chose instead to take the photo. The guilt of that instant has defined his life. He whispers, "One picture stole my humanity." The river of light Isabella takes Luciano to a remote village rebuilt after the war. There, people hang photographs on trees as offerings to the lost. Luciano adds the boy's photo among them. For a moment, he feels peace, until a young refugee recognizes him as the man who watched. The shame returns heavier than before. Camila's letter back home. Camila sends Luciano a letter she never meant him to read. She writes of feeling invisible, that her father could capture strangers' pain but never her own. Luciano breaks down, realizing the same neglect he inflicted on the world's suffering mirrored his own home. He calls her, but she doesn't answer. The weight of regret crushes him. A collapse of realities, Luciano begins to lose grip on what's real. He sees the boy everywhere, in reflections, in photographs, in crowds. He wakes up in different places with his camera still recording. The film's editing becomes chaotic, looping between timelines, blending sound and silence. Iñárritu's style evokes a fever dream of conscience unraveling. The father's ghost Luciano visits his childhood home, where he finds old photos taken by his father, also a war journalist. He realizes his obsession with documenting pain was inherited. His father's ghost appears, saying, "We both confused witness with savior." Luciano vows to break the cycle, to live instead of merely observing. He burns his camera. The boy returns in a surreal sequence. The boy appears in Luciano's apartment, alive and calm. He leads Luciano to the rooftop, showing him the sunrise. The boy says, "You can still save one life, your own." Luciano weeps as the boy fades, leaving behind his camera. He finally smiles for the first time. The hospital Luciano wakes in a hospital bed, Isabella by his side. He had collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration in the desert. Doctors tell him he nearly died, but something changed in him. A quiet acceptance. He thanks Isabella for forgiving him. She replies, "Forgiveness isn't for you, it's for the boy." Reconnection, Luciano reunites with Elena and Camilla. They share dinner, awkward but genuine. He gifts Camilla a new camera, saying, "Take pictures of life, not death." For the first time, they laugh together. The warmth feels fragile but real. The gallery, reimagined months later, Luciano unveils a new exhibition titled The Living. Portraits of people he once photographed, now rebuilding their lives. Each image tells a story of resilience, not despair. Critics call it his redemption. Luciano watches quietly, no longer needing validation. His camera hangs on the wall, unused. The ocean scene, Luciano walks along the beach at sunset, scattering old film negatives into the waves. He whispers an apology to those he failed. The camera drifts away in the tide, dissolving like memory. He closes his eyes as the sound of children laughing blends with the sea. Peace, at last, feels possible. The boys photograph in the final exhibition. One photo remains unseen behind a curtain. The boys. Luciano decides not to display it. Instead, he places it in Isabella's hands. She smiles faintly, saying, "Now he can rest." The frame remains empty, a powerful silence. Post-credit scene, the flash of light. The screen fades to black, but the sound of a camera shutter echoes once more. A final flash, an image of the boy smiling, alive, standing beside Luciano. The audience is left questioning whether it's memory, forgiveness, or rebirth. The closing line appears, "Some images capture death. Others, the moment we begin to live again."